Hi guys, welcome back. Today I want to answer a question that I got in the comments about employment attorneys and how to hire them. I believe you mentioned that you paid your attorney hourly. However, I've heard other attorneys say that we shouldn't pay hourly because if an attorney requires you to pay hourly, that means they don't believe in your case. What's your opinion on that? Do you have any videos on finding a good attorney or any information on in-state versus out-of-state/national attorneys? So I'm going to break this up into a couple of videos because this is a big area. Now for today, I'm only going to answer the first part of this. Contingency fee arrangements versus hourly. Now keep in mind that I'm not an attorney, I'm just another worker like you who's been through this. And also keep in mind that what worked for me may not work for you and vice versa. Now for those of you who don't know what a contingency fee arrangement is, basically it's when an attorney offers to represent us in exchange for a percentage of our final award, usually about 40%. From an attorney's perspective, they can't afford to take cases on contingency unless they're fairly certain that that 40% is going to cover the time that they spend on our case. Their time is money and they can't just give it away for free. So I agree that if an attorney is offering to take your case on contingency, it's because they think they can get enough out of it to make it worth their while. And if they get paid, so do you. From a worker's perspective, contingency fee arrangements are an opportunity for us to get representation without having to pay out of pocket. And if they don't win something for us, then we don't have to pay at all. It's low risk, and it can be a great option for a lot of us. But it's not an option that all of us have because not all our cases are worth enough to justify their time. And even if we do have that option, it's not always the best option for all of us. And the best way I can think of to show you why I say that is to walk you through the options I had when I was looking for an attorney. At first, I was calling local employment attorneys. A few told me that they were pretty sure they could win my case, and if my case was worth more, they'd be willing to take it on contingency, but as it stood, it wasn't worth their while. They said, come back after NASA fires you, and I didn't want to get fired, so hiring a local attorney wasn't in the cards for me. So next I started looking at national firms that handled federal sector cases. Most of them told me the same thing as the local guys, come back when NASA fires you. But one firm offered to take my case without me having to be fired, and they even offered me a contingency arrangement, sort of. They asked for a $6,000 retainer up front, plus 40% of any award they were able to get for me. I was tempted because they were the first firm that offered to take on my case. I was excited about that. And at first glance, it seemed like their 40% cut would motivate them to get me the best deal they possibly could. But when I started reading their reviews, I wasn't so sure. Several of their former clients mentioned that while their cases settled quickly, they didn't get much for them. A couple even mentioned that they'd felt pressured by their attorney to accept a lowball settlement offer. And sure enough, when I looked at the contract they wanted me to sign, it said that if they got me a settlement offer that they thought was fair, but I didn't, they had the option to keep my retainer and just walk away. I couldn't accept that, so I passed. Since I've been doing the channel, I've heard about a thing called settlement mills. And these are firms who take on a huge caseload and try to settle all those cases as quickly as they possibly can for less than they're probably worth. A firm like that isn't going to be motivated to maximize the 40% they could make on your case. For them, it's all about throughput. Not every firm that offers you a contingency fee arrangement is going to be like this, but it's not uncommon. Now let me walk you through the compensation that I think I probably would have gotten if I'd hired this firm, and a lot of this is based on hindsight. Things I know now that I didn't know then. NASA only ever made one settlement offer to me, for $17,000 shortly after I hired my attorney. And if I'd hired this particular firm, I feel like they probably would have advised me to take the $17,000. Now $17,000 may sound like a decent amount of money, but not all that money was going in my pocket. $17,000 was the total settlement. From that, my attorney's cut would have been 40%, or about $6,800, and from that, I'd have had to pay taxes, which would have left me with around $7,000. And considering that I'd already paid this firm a $6,000 retainer on the front end, non-refundable, that would have left me with a net gain of around $1,000. considering that I'd been working on my case for 2 years by that point. So the contingency arrangement that I was offered definitely would not have been the best option for me. The attorney that I actually hired was at a different national firm. She told me that she was confident she could win my case, but her retainer was roughly double what the other firm was charging, and she wasn't offering me any kind of contingency arrangement at all. Her reviews told me that for the most part, she didn't settle. She went to court and won. Their cases took longer, but they were well compensated for that time. Now, our contract said if she won, she'd bill NASA at a rate of just over $500 an hour, and she'd give me my retainer back. And if she lost, I'd have to pay for her time, but at a reduced rate of $250 an hour. And I think there was a maximum cap of $70,000, so that was the most it could cost me. And we're not rich, so $70,000 is a lot of money for us. But when we looked at the fact that winning meant she was going to get another $250 an hour, that told us that she was going to be highly motivated to win. So we decided to take the risk. And now I want to stress that the reason I took that risk is because I knew that if I had to pay back the $70K, I could. I was retiring, so I was going to have a guaranteed income, I was going to have a lot of time on my hands, and I had a marketable skill set for my particular part of the country. So I could have gotten a part-time consulting gig and paid her back eventually. I wasn't exactly thrilled about the idea of having to go back to work, but I could have if I'd had to. Now, our contract said that she had the right to bill me incrementally at the lower rate, so that she could have charged me while my fight was going on, but she rarely did that. She sort of carried me on contingency, even though we weren't calling it that. I never had the guts to ask her why she wasn't billing me, but after my case wrapped up, she told me that it was because she was always certain that NASA was going to pay her and pay her well. And they did. Her final bill for my case was around $250,000, give or take. She got me compensation in the low six-figure range, which is way better than the $1K I'd have gotten at that other firm. So for me, even though paying her by the hour was a risk, and it was scary, it turned out to be a much better deal than if I'd taken the contingency arrangement and just walked away with $1,000. And I'm not saying that paying by the hour is going to be the best option for all of you, because it definitely isn't. But what I am saying is that making a decision about which employment attorney to hire is a little more nuanced than just looking at whether they're offering you a contingency arrangement or an hourly fee. It really boils down to the strength of your case, the particulars of the attorney that you're dealing with, and how much risk you're able to take on in order to win. As far as I can tell, there's no one-size-fits-all here. We all have to find the best fit for us. So next week, I'm going to be sharing a few thoughts on how to do that, and you don't want to miss that, so subscribe and click the bell, and I'll see you then. Meanwhile, you guys take care and hang in.